Support for 614 Startups comes from the law firm of Dickinson Wright, with around 500 attorneys working from 19 offices across the U.S. and Canada. They handle all types of business transactional law, including advising privately held and venture capital-backed companies in capital raising, mergers and acquisition, and transactions involving technology, software, data, and e-commerce. Partner Alex Brown serves as outside counsel to startup companies ranging from business entity selection and formation, protection and commercialization of technology assets, conducting business online, and data security issues. For more information, visit dickinsonwright.com. Support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Nationwide. Nationwide's mission is to protect people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care. To help fulfill that mission, Nationwide is looking to invest its $350 million venture capital investment fund in insurtechs that will help them create new and exciting products and solutions to meet the needs of their customers. If you're interested in partnering with Nationwide's venture capital team, visit nationwideventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is nationwideventures.com. Nationwide is on your side. 614 Startups Nation, welcome to another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. This is the first. We're going to do a mini-sode with my very special guest, Jason Cook of Rubrik. My name is Elio Harmon, your host. Let's get right to it. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, man. So since this is a mini-sode, this is super compressed, but this is a topic I've really been wanting to talk about. So let's just jump right in and talk about Rubrik and how you became a part of it.
Absolutely. So I've been with the firm for about 5 years now. I'm a technical services director. I focus on major accounts across the U.S. I lead a team of technology sellers, particularly for our platform. And, it's been an amazing journey. I remember in the very early days of Rubrik, our primary goal was to modernize, consolidate, and really simplify data protection and recovery. But as you know, the landscape of cyber threats has changed, and now backup and recovery is more important than it ever has been. And so that's where we spend most of our time, is helping customers get a ransomware or cybersecurity prevention plan in place using our technology.
They modernize, first, I'm not a tech guy, right? So my first assumption is, hey, everybody has the latest technology. What are you finding out there when you're talking about customers for where they are versus where Rubrik can take them?
That's a great question. So the first thing is, just to give a very brief background of the market, if you were to do research on when did the data protection companies or the backup and recovery companies out in the market, hang a shingle, when did they file their first patent, when did they incorporate? Most of what you'll find is that 1991 to 93 is when the overwhelming majority of them started. So the problems that they were looking to solve at that time were very different, or are very different, than the problems customers are facing today. For example, how do I maintain the strictest sense of security with my data in a variety of different forms? How do I embrace the public cloud, and how do my technologies intersect with the public cloud, and how do I ensure that I'm future-proofed should my strategies change? And then how can I bring automation into my platform so I can, eliminate the need for a lot of subject matter experts on my team in favor of more cross-functional IT generalists, if you will. So Rubrik says that's where we see modern is a solution that was designed to confront today's challenges can only have been developed in the modern era, so think 2014 and beyond.
Especially if your company intends to have an API that plugs into a big player in the market, right? So hey, before we allow you to plug into our system, we need to make sure that you're making considerations for all these other issues. So, I'm like a noob, right, when it comes to cybersecurity. All I know is ransomware and Bitcoin. So bring me up to speed on the state of cybersecurity and the threats that are out there that are facing your customers.
I'd be happy to. So I think in general, what people and organizations, working in IT have determined is that all of the investments that they've made in the perimeter and the endpoint and application security spaces aren't in vain, but today's attacks bypass all of those layers and they get right at the data. So the prevailing question is, do I have the sanctity of knowing that my data is safe, and thereby do I have security at the point of data? And I think that's where all of a sudden here comes backup and recovery, because Elio, to be honest, prior to Rubrik, backup and recovery was something that you did for regulators to prove that, well, if there were a disaster, sure, we could recover, but I really hope we don't ever have to do that because it all lives on tape and that's so slow. I don't even know if we've even tried to test those restores. But, when the auditors come, we tell them we do backups and they go away. But with ransomware, well, now we've really put that to the test. And what we recognize is there's a lot of architectures that are out there that are also compromisable, to invent a word. 2 out of the 3 ransomware attacks get the backups. So if I've got your production systems and I've got your backups, that's an unrecoverable event. So Rubrik has developed a system from the ground up to prevent that. Not only in its core architecture, but with a variety of controls, security controls that it's put into the platform to ensure that things like bad actors, rogue admins, can't get into the system. If they can't get at the data, that they can't log in and destroy the data. So that's really what we're seeing is now all of a sudden, you better have a sound recovery strategy that rests on protected data if you plan to recover from ransomware.
You just took us into the deep of cybersecurity. We got to break it down real quick in as few minutes as we can. So you talk about getting right at the data, all right? What does that even mean? Because I imagine that people are coding, they're building their products, and that's the data. Or are you talking about the infrastructure of the platform that they're getting at, or are they getting at the customer data being stored? Like, what is the gold here? What are they after? What is worth something?
Here's what's really beguiling and fascinating with ransomware is that it's everything and everything. They want intellectual property so they can hold that at ransom. Some cyber terrorists will come in and just encrypt everything, right? And so what they're holding is the infrastructure at ransom. It really depends on who the group is and what their speciality is and what they're looking to accomplish. Now, what I would say I've seen in more cases these days is why do all the labor of trying to get at all of this information, which the crown jewels are fewer in number. So if I could get at, say, your patient information, or I could get at, say, your manufacturing schematics, or I could get at your really sensitive material and hold that ransom, well, ultimately, that's what you would pay for, right? So you raise a great point, though. It isn't just being able to protect against the damage of the data in place. It's also being able to protect against exfiltration. That is the idea that I could take something out of your environment and capture it. So to that point,
let's talk, sorry to cut you off. Let's talk about environment, right? So with Rubrik, are they still coding and keeping information on their system? And then you guys are laying on the protection. Okay, so they get to keep their system. You're laying on protection. But you talked about this issue of of Rubrik's approach being different than what has been traditionally done because the problems are different. So give us the secret sauce. What is different about Rubrik that makes you guys a leader in what you're doing?
So several things. Number one, and I would say before I tell you that I don't think, and we don't think, it's any one thing. It's the confluence of factors all working in concert that make the difference. Because if you look at the market, some solutions have some element of these factors, some have others, but it's bringing them all together. So the first thing is that you have to have a system that's based on a system which is unable to be edited or altered. That is called immutable. The idea that The place where you're storing the information, the protected information, cannot be altered. It can't be deleted. It can't be written to. It can't be changed in some way, right? And what that really means is, are my backups, are they exposed? Can somebody just mount them up and start removing them or altering them, right? That's first thing. Second thing, it has to exist, Elio, in what's called an air gap, meaning the backups can't be on or available via the network, right? Because in so many ransomware attacks, they are. And let's face it, cyber criminals or criminals are not really trying to work really hard. They like things that are easy. And if they go out there and they see, oh, look what I found, all of the backups in a file share or something like that, easy, right? Got them. Now we've moved on. So you really got to have.
Bear with me, Jason. All right. So this is where I play the role of the audience, right? So you're talking about the backups. But where am I pulling? So the backups can't be, they have to be in a protected environment where people can't access it, change it, manipulate it, etc. Right? That's the backup.
That's
but
right.
Where am I working out of on a day-to-day basis if the backup can't be accessed by the network? So where is the information, infrastructure, data that's on the backup? How do I get access to it to do my work on a daily basis?
So that's the
complete misunderstanding.
Well, here's the thing. So I have my production systems. That's what I work on a daily basis. What Rubrik is doing is taking a copy, or what we would call a snapshot, of that information, such that if the place where I work every day is compromised, I have a copy which is not compromised that I can recover from, right? Now, here's what's cool about Rubrik, and this is kind of the third thing that differentiates us. Elio, what we've realized is the only real recovery strategy today that makes any sense is what we would call an in-place recovery strategy. You get hit with ransomware, the clock is ticking. You've got public trust issues, you've got revenue loss and productivity loss issues, you've got a lot of things that are working in concert, and you also have the chaos of the moment that's working against you because maybe you don't know what was breached or attacked, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. But with the recovery time, that can be just as an important factor as whether or not my data or my backups have been compromised. If it's going to take too long to get back up, people are pivoting to pay the ransom. With Rubrik, I can recover right on platform. So to your question, in the event of a ransomware breach, remember that place where I was working on my data every day? That place can now be Rubrik temporarily while I bring up my new clean systems that I have to create to recover from that ransomware event. So that's what we mean by in-place recoveries.
I understand that, and we only have a couple minutes left, so I got to give you the last word on this. But okay, so I have my production environment. I'm backed up on Rubrik, and so I know if my production environment has an attack, I can quickly come back up and begin to operate again. So you can't really hold me at ransom in terms of my ability to still deliver for my customers. You can't hold me at ransom for that, but you still have a breach, right? So Rubrik doesn't necessarily focus on preventing the breach because maybe it's impossible, or maybe it's just very difficult. You just focus on the backup system so that if a breach does happen, they can't hold you at ransom from delivering on the services that you need to.
But wait, there's more. And I can go just a little bit longer, so we'll finish this thought out. Okay, so there's more. So in addition to the core platform and the tenets of immutability, air gapping, authentication controls, all of the core platform needs to have to ensure the data is protected, it's safe, it can't be breached by bad actors, and it can be recovered quickly. In addition to that, I've got software that I layer on top. I use aspects of the core platform to perform analytics on the data. And what am I looking for? I'm looking for anomalous patterns, I'm looking for suspicious activity, and I'm looking for encrypted payloads, which means I can infer a cyber event, i.e. ransomware, before it takes hold because I'm scanning the data in real time. And what better platform to do that than on the backup platform, which is not having to tax my production systems to do that work. So we have a series of applications that we wrote on a framework we call Polaris, and that's what that does. It provides insight as well as recovery automation at the point of the insight so that folks don't have to wait until the event. They have a sense of this is happening now, and ideally I can catch it before the event.
And listen, I think we have a new segment on our hands here at 614 Startups. I might coin this the 614 Startups hot seat. Jason Cook, you were in the hot seat. You delivered your message like a pro, just like that man on the wall behind you. Fourth quarter when it's clutch and the game is on the line. Give the ball to Jason Cook.
Step back. That's it.
All
Killer.
right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I will have you back, but I really want to get into this world of hacking and cybersecurity, and I think you're the man to do that. Thank you.
Okay, it'd be my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. You have a great day.
All right, you too. And 614 Startups Nation, thank you for joining us on another episode. Peace.